Well, I'm sorry about this, guys, but I gotta acknowledge the fact that many of you guys out there feel like you missed it with Tesla altogether. And I can say the same for SoFi, Meta, and a bunch of other stocks like that. Just 3 weeks ago, you could get Tesla for almost $100. It almost went underneath $100. And here we are just a few weeks later, and now it's in the 160s. And honestly, it seems like it goes up 10% every day. Looking back at Meta 2 months ago, it was in the 80s, and now it's at the 140s, and again, seemingly going up huge every single day. So did you make a mistake with these stocks and a bunch of other stocks, if we're being honest here, and they're all basically going up to the moon, and there's basically, you just missed it? Is that honestly the truth? And if you're in the opposite boat and you were buying at those levels, you bought Meta at 80, you bought Tesla at $100 or so, should you be taking profits now? There's basically a new set of challenges in front of you that we honestly haven't had in a very long time. So we need to talk about this, guys, and we're going to discuss all of it right here today. I just ask in exchange for you to gently, tap that like button and consider subscribing too. It's super easy to do if you like the truth without the hype, and if you don't want all the doom and gloom or the to the moon narrative or everything else. If you guys just want the truth and you just want to know exactly what the heck's going on. All right, so how many of you guys out there are seeing a lot of green in your portfolio over the past month here, guys? I mean, be honest, comment down below if your portfolio is basically green for the entire year of 2023 so far. But this rally has sustained long enough that I feel like we need to talk about this new problem that's arising that I'm hearing everywhere, guys. I'm seeing it in the comments here on YouTube. I'm hearing it, and we're discussing it in my group. I'm hearing it everywhere that we got some new sets of problems that we haven't necessarily had in a long time. So it's definitely something we need to address. And we'll get to the people that bought and what you should do if you've already bought it in just a second here. But for those of you guys out there that didn't buy, do you have that feeling right now that you kind of missed it in the stock market? Basically, or not necessarily stock market, but in a lot of stocks like Tesla. You basically just feel like you missed it. And now it's really, really difficult to deal with because you're looking at it and you're just kind of going, man, do I buy now? It was just so much cheaper just a month ago or 3 weeks ago or whatever the case was. And now it's a lot more, like not a little bit, not like 10% or 20% more. Now it's, 50 or 60% more expensive than it was back then. It's really, really hard to buy in that environment. So how do you deal with that? Basically, we got so used to buying in a red market that, it's kind of upsetting because you basically were used to, hey, patience was actually paying off, right? I mean, if I went to buy a stock and I was just patient for a few days, the stock price went down, right? And then the more patient you were, the lower the stock seemed to go. And now it's kind of the exact opposite feeling to where now it's like, hey, your patience isn't being rewarded. You're no longer being rewarded for being patient because all of a sudden now you're patient and the stock's up 20% from where it was when you thought you wanted to buy in the first place. So it's kind of like everything's just kind of flipped up on its head on you. Basically, the strategy you used to buy in a red market isn't working anymore because right now, at least for the past month, it's been a green market. So let's talk about it, guys, because eventually, of course, bear markets in regards to bull markets, bull markets are, typically years, 5, 6, 7 years in terms of the average bull market, as opposed to the average bear markets under a year. So you got a lot of bull year markets to go. So let's talk about how you handle it during that bull market. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying we're starting a new bull market cycle or anything like that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying the lessons that we know and the strategy we use during that time frame can be used right now, during these green times. Now, again, we could have a huge fall off and we could make a new low. We could make a new low in the market in general in the next, 3 months, 6 months, whatever the case is. I have no idea. I'm not trying to guess that. I just know right now during these times, you're going to have rallies, even during a bear market. And you can use that green day, that green, bull market strategy during this time right now, regardless of whether we start that cycle or not. Right now, I'm not going to guess that. That's for the traders and all the other, market timers and everybody else that seems to think they know where the market's going all the time. They can guess all that sort of stuff. Not for me, not for us here, not for us on this channel. So when we're dealing with a market where it's just all doom and gloom and just death and disaster and all that sort of stuff in the market, basically the thing, and we talk about all the time on this channel, you got to zoom out. You got to look at the bigger picture there and see exactly what's actually going on with the market and what the actual opportunity is. And guess what? You have to do the same exact thing during the green market, during the bull market as well. You have to zoom out to see exactly what the opportunity is. So let's look at Tesla here, and we'll use that as the example to see exactly what I'm talking about and to kind of illustrate both sides of that point. So let's think about last year, this time last year. If you had a chance to buy Tesla, we'll say, at the time, $200. Everybody and their mom would have been like, oh my gosh, I'd load the boat on Tesla at $200. That would be just incredible, right? And then obviously when it dips down to 150, if I would have told you 150 back then, it would have been the same exact thing. Oh my goodness, that would be an incredible opportunity to buy. And then at 100 and so on and so forth like that. All those, when you're looking at a time where the stock is significantly higher than that, and you're wanting a little bit of a discount, that's exactly what you feel, right? You kind of zoom out and go, oh my gosh, that would be an incredible opportunity there. So if your valuation is at $250, $300, $350, $400, whatever it is for you, obviously getting to buy it at $200 is a steal deal and something you absolutely want to be able to do. But now we had a chance to buy it at, 101, whatever the heck the low was there at that day. And now it's up around, the 160s or so. And now all of a sudden you're looking at it and you want nothing to do with Tesla at 160, despite the fact that, it's a steal deal compared to what you thought you were getting last year at this time. And that's where you got to kind of just ignore that noise and not look back to the past as much as zoom out and look at the opportunity in front of you. Now, you're right, it could very well fall at 101, it could fall to the 80. I have no idea. But I know when I'm sitting down, I'm deciding, do I want to buy Tesla or not? One of the last things that I do is look at, well, what was my last buy? Well, what was the 52-week low? Well, what was this? What was that? What is the opportunity right now in front of me to buy that stock? And where is it in terms of big picture long term? If you truly think Tesla is a $350 stock in 2 years or wherever you have that valuation at, why the heck is buying it at 180 or 160 or 120 or wherever, why is that a bad buy? It doesn't make any sense to me if that's where you think it's going. Now, of course, a $100 buy is better than that. I would agree completely there. Nobody's a fool like that. But if Tesla's truly going to be, a $500 stock, $1,000 stock in the future, why the heck does it matter? I'm not going to care whether I bought it at 180 or I bought it at 160 or I bought it at 100. Of course, 100 is better. Of course, I would own most shares and all that sort of stuff. But I'm not going to miss an opportunity later on to see that because I'm zooming out and I'm looking at that bigger picture and I'm looking forward at, wow, I really think this is a steal on Tesla right now. If it was a steal last year when the price was 300, when it got underneath $200, why the heck is it a full year later with Tesla executing the way that they've executed, growing the way they've grown, all of a sudden now 180 or 160 or whatever the case is, a bad price for the stock? That makes absolutely no sense. That's basically looking at the past or letting the share price and what the share price is doing, dictating what the actual opportunity of the stock is there. Basically, the biggest problem everybody has, I have it included, is hindsight is always right. You are never, ever, ever going to time the bottom perfectly. You are always going to find mistakes in any buy that you make. There's always, I could have done better, I should have bought more, whatever the case is, and that's true for every single investor. Warren Buffett, Peter Lynch, anybody and everybody, you can take a look at all their incredible, oh my gosh, he was so lucky, or that was the genius call of the decade or the century. And you can find flaws in where, well, gosh, you would have done this, you would have made more money. If you would have gone, 2 days earlier, 2 weeks earlier, 2 months later, whatever the case is, you would have made a lot more money. But hindsight does that. Hindsight will always win. That's why I try not to look back in hindsight, except for just to figure out what I may have done right, what I did wrong, and to learn from it, and I kind of move forward. But I know every single move that I make is never going to be perfect. It's not. I'm never going to be close to the bottom, and I don't have to be close to the bottom to make a lot of money. I missed the bottom in Apple after the tech bubble by 40 freaking percent. Guess what? Hadn't mattered. Go look at the price back then and look at the price now and tell me if you'd be very, very happy if you bought even at 40% above that bottom. I think you're doing quite well. I know I'm doing quite well. And I think you'd be very, very happy with what you see if you go back there and you look at that sort of stuff. Now, I totally get it. You might not be comfortable buying that way. Then just execute a simple DCA, guys. That's all you have to do with the stock is just DCA into it. And if you're DCA into a great stock over the long run, you win big time. That is proven statistically over and over and over and over again that system works. But don't be the person that sits on the sideline because the stock ran up 50% and you don't want to own a great stock. I'm not telling you to run out and buy Tesla tomorrow. I'm not saying Tesla won't pull back or anything else like that. What I'm telling you is a lot of folks never buy a stock because they keep waiting on hindsight to happen because they always are looking for that perfect trade or timing the bottom or hitting the bottom or whatever the case is. And that's just fool's gold to look back and do that. So if you did buy at those lows, how the heck do you screw this up? I mean, you did your job. You executed when the prices were just stupid and you managed to, I won't say time the bottom, but you managed to somewhat get close to the bottom there. You did great and you're up big now. How the heck can you screw this up? Well, I'm going to quote the Green Day video that I play for my group here every once in a while when we have a nice rally. And that is exactly this. When you have a nice sustained rally in your stocks and you're up big, like if you bought Tesla at 101 and it's up 50, 60%, whatever the heck it is from where you bought it at, the good idea fairy is going to show up and she's going to whisper in your ear, hey, take some profits, take some gains. Don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. It's going to fall down, right? I mean, we're not out of this yet, which I agree with. We're not out of it yet. But, don't worry. It's going to fall down and then you'll be able to buy it back again cheaper and buy even more shares. The problem with that is your plan that you laid out and you spent so much time on says that stock is going to be up almost 300% from those lows in the next 3 years. But you're tempted to take a 50 or 60%, 40% gain, whatever the heck it is right now instead. Now, if it's a planned swing trade, I totally understand, guys. That makes perfect sense. And of course, I absolutely would be taking profits if it was a planned swing trade. But if it's a long-term hold for you, I'm not necessarily sure I would make that same move. I have played this game before, basically selling Apple for a 30% profit, or $600 is what I made on that. I sold for a profit. It was up 30%. I sold it. But that selling and those shares, if I would have kept those shares, are worth 7 figures today. So essentially, I gave up a $600 profit, or I got a $600 profit in exchange for a 7-figure return if I just would have held. That is a massive difference there. $600 versus 7 figures. You tell me which one sounds better over the long run. I can tell you right now, I'm choosing this one. And I'm sorry, if you think you're gonna take your gains and then buy lower and then kind of rinse and repeat and keep doing that sort of stuff, I'm sorry, you're basically timing the market at that stage, and nobody can do that consistently over the long run. You are going to lose. It's not going to work out for you. And I'm sorry, you're just mistaken if you think that's what you're going to do. And you're going to turn into that same 7-figure gain that I would have gotten by just holding. All I had to do was hold. So if you think you're going to trade your way to that same 7 figures and hit it earlier or anything else like that, I'm sorry, you are mistaken, my friend. That's not how the stock market works. I mean, if you figure it out, great. You'll be one of the richest investors ever. But nobody's managed to figure it out yet. The algorithms can't figure out. PhDs from Harvard and every other, Ivy League university can't figure it out. Supercomputers can't figure it out. So I don't think the chances are very well that you're going to figure it out either. You spend your days and your weeks studying, creating this plan, and then actually having the guts to execute your plan to just basically blow up the whole plan just to take some gains so that way you can think you can basically time the market and get in and out of it all over again. And think about it, if you sold, now you gotta create a new plan to, hey, where am I gonna re-enter the stock again? Where am I gonna sell it again if I'm choosing to do that again? And all those other sort of things like that. It becomes a burden, right? I mean, it takes time to plan out those entry and those exit points again, when to me, I'd rather hold the stock, and while it's on its run, I need to figure out how the heck do I make more income? How do I take care of my budget better to where I have more money coming in? Maybe I can house hack or do something else to create more income for myself to buy more of that stock whenever it dips again, if it's truly going to dip again. So for me, that's where I'd rather spend my time. Is how do I increase that income so I can hold onto those shares and then also add new shares without having to jump in and out, pay taxes, and do all this other craziness like that with the stock market that I know over the long run is proven not to actually work. Solving the income problem is actually a lot easier than trading in the stock market. Trading in the stock market's not going to get you there. However, increasing your income so that way you can increase, and by increasing your income, I mean either decreasing your expenses or increasing your income and decreasing your expenses, that is proven as a viable strategy to increase your wealth over the long term. But even more importantly that, you're relieved of all the pressure, all the stress, all that other stuff that a lot of folks have had trying to time the market, trying to get in and out of positions and trying to do all that sort of stuff like that. Those traders have had a lot of stress this past year trying to figure it out with Tesla. Nobody's gotten it right yet. That's a tough, tough place to be at. And I don't want that stress. And that's trading. That's not investing, long-term buy and hold investing. So you got to kind of keep those separated. Now, I'm fine if you want to have an account for trading and an account for long-term investing. But if you're trying to trade your long-term investments, that's not a good idea at all. You might want to look really hard before doing so. Not saying you can't do it. Not saying, it's up to you. It's your money, your way of doing it. However, I personally would look really, really hard, in my opinion, before doing something like that. So kind of keep this in mind as we have a nice little rally here, and if it pulls back or it doesn't pull back and we actually have the next bull run, doesn't matter. The point is you're going to need this information at some point in time because, again, the market is always in a bull run more than it's in a bear run. And remember to check out the link down in the pinned comment if you want to actually take 5 courses on how to do exactly what we talked about today. Have a kind of a support network there of a whole bunch of folks. I promise, guys, it's not just you can access me all day long. I answer all my DMs. We do live Q&As. We do all kinds of crazy things like that where if you want to talk to me, you talk to me all day long. However, we have a ton of group members that jump in there and help you with these things like mindset, your planning, what to do, all those sort of things like that, helping you analyze the stock, the whole nine. So make sure you check that out if you're interested in that. And, click this video here if you want to see the 10 most important stocks in the stock market for 2023. And click here if you want to see my exact plan for what I'm doing in this market. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.